Hi everyone, my name is Kaylee Hedrick and I chose the book Plague Time: How Stealth Infections Cause Cancers, Heart Disease, and Other Deadly Ailments. I basically chose this book just because of how prominent cancer and, heart disease is in today's society. Basically, you can walk up to anybody on the street and ask if they know somebody, that has suffered from or is suffering from one of those illnesses, and there's a good chance that they're going to say yes. Plus, this just gives another insight onto how those diseases come about, besides carcinogens, mutations, environmental factors. This is just, another answer, another input as to why these things happen. So this book, the main idea of this book is talking about infectious diseases and germs. So the thing about infectious diseases and germs is that they have to be strategic to survive because their main goal in their life is to be passed on to another person. So in order to do that, they have to get kind of tricky with what they do so they can hide in your body long enough. And this goes on to STDs. STDs are probably the most scary infection that you can have because of what they can do to your body and how they hide. They're so good at it. For example, HIV and immune cells, they disguise themselves as immune cells. So when your immune cells come to fight off this HIV infection, it doesn't really recognize it. HPV, we all know about HPV. It's a really dangerous, disease for women to get, especially because it can cause cervical cancer. And this is because HPV actually takes over your cervix cells. And it just mass multiplies them as much as it wants to. And then syphilis, it actually strips its external molecule and then it can put on other ones, so it's just unrecognizable to our immune system. And so basically, if these things are in our body long enough without us recognizing it, it can cause mental illness, aneurysms, neurological disorders, tissue destruction, just really bad stuff that, it's not good. And then vaccines are talked about in this book a lot because, vaccines are what kills, gets us healthy from these diseases, keeps us healthy from getting them, I guess you can say. And so how vaccines work is they actually teach the body to recognize the bad. So they put a little bit of the bad in, dead or live virus, whatever, whatever kind of vaccine you get. And it's just kind of like a heads up for your body. So the analogy that they use in the book is like when a police station sends another police station a mugshot of a criminal and like, hey, watch out for this person. And this all happens in our body through chemical messages, which I found pretty interesting. And then the book goes on to talk about antibiotics. So antibiotics make it a lot harder to fight the endless war with germs. They use that term a lot, but I really do get it. I understand why they use the term because, since the beginning of time, we've been fighting to figure out how to, cure these illnesses, keep ourselves from getting sick. And so when we use antibiotics to, heal ourselves when we're sick, it causes resistance in the germs. The more that we use antibiotics, the more that antibiotics don't work with the germs because they just get stronger and stronger. Back to STDs, since they are so gradual and harmful, the more partners you have specifically, it makes them stronger. This is because the more that you are having unprotected sex, it just makes them stronger because they're continuously being passed on, so they're continuously learning to survive in another environment. And so that's what's suspiciously, scary about them. And so now we're going to talk about how genes actually affect your cancer, but more than that, infections cause these cancers. So infection does cause cancer. For example, if you have the gene BRCA gene, it's the breast cancer gene, that will affect your chances of getting cancer more likely. But this is because of your more susceptibility to these infections that cause the cancer to get mammary tumors. This also was discovered in a chicken in 1910. So if you didn't know that, now you do. Explanation behind why infection can cause cancer is because these infections work with the mutations, the environmental factors, or carcinogens. This infection isn't just by itself doing it. It's working with other things in our bodies, in our environments to cause this cancer, but it's ultimately the base thing that causes this cancer in our bodies. I got some interesting stuff for you. So infections can also cause mental illness. So in about 60% of bipolar patients and schizophrenia patients, they share a virus called the Borna virus. Basically, this virus, it messes with your mental stability, that sort of thing. But actually, it can come from cats. So cats can get this disease as well, but it doesn't affect them the way that it affects humans due to, we're humans, they're cats. And so it can be passed from cats to humans through their feces. And this is especially, something that doctors have stressed a lot, with pregnant women and cats. Like, you know, scooping litter boxes and feces, because a lot of things can be passed through it. So that's another thing. And the last part of this book is basically telling us to, you know, stay prepared. A prepared mind knows what to look for, knows what's going to be on the lookout for the germs, and it's all about prevention. So, you know, safe sex, vaccines, staying home when you're sick. If you stay home when you're sick, you're not giving that germ another chance to pass on to another body to make it stronger. My favorite part about this book was definitely the STDs and how they hide, as gross as that sounds. I mean, STDs are probably the scariest infections that you can have out there, just because they cause so many, like, awful things to happen to your body. They can make you sick. They can, you know, make you sterile. You can be infertile, that sort of thing. And then I also liked how the infections can cause mental illness. I especially like this because my major is a psychology major, so this kind of applies to me both ways, you know, the science part of biology plus my psychology major. And I just think that, you know, if that was thought about more often when we start to treat mental illness, it might, you know, completely change the path that we use for treating them. And I also thought the way that vaccines works, I never really knew the way that vaccines work. I knew that they use like a dead virus or a live virus, but this, it gave me more insight into what they actually do in our bodies, which I found pretty interesting. The impact of this book is that infections, they affect everyone. Every single one of us that's, you know, watching this video right now who is going to read this book, we've all had an infection, you know, sinus infection, you know, just something. We've all had an infection, but due to these infections, we can get really sick from it. We can get cancer, we can get heart disease, all that sort of thing. We can have mental illness. And so information about this stuff leads to prevention. It can help those who already suffer from these ailments, and altogether, it's just kind of an educational book that's really fun to read. I mean, it's a sciencey book, but once you really get into it, I mean, it's not all science. There's some humor in it. So I learned the dangers of common infections long-term, the correlation between the mind and infections, and the danger of no prevention. So no vaccines, no safe sex, you know, it's all really bad. We just have to protect ourselves no matter what. And so in conclusion to that, I really thought this was an interesting read. It educated me to things that apply to my own major, which I found I never even thought of, you know, this being biology and, you know, me being a psychology major, that sort of thing. I never thought I would read this book and be like, oh yeah, that applies to me. And it just informed me on how to stay safe. And I believe that everyone should read this just for the educational purposes. All right, thanks.